Good evening, Raider Nation, and welcome to another edition of the Will to Win Broadcast After Show, episode number 2. This is your host, the Oakland Knight, and joining me as always is a co-founder of the Will to Win Broadcast and a senior analyst on the show, Raider Pirate. What's up, brother?
What's happening, everybody?
So we just had ourselves another fun-filled week of putting another show together. It's getting funner all the time. Just nothing but excitement and happiness all week, right, Pirate?
Here it comes.
Oh,
Big Mac.
Good morning.
Good morning, mate.
Awesome.
And joining us as always is our senior international analyst, Raider Lion from the UK. What's up, mate?
Not much, guys. How are you?
Good.
Doing good, man. Did you get a chance to watch? You probably didn't get a chance to watch the episode. Looked like you just woke up.
I have literally just woken up. I'm absolutely shattered.
Sorry about that, man. I know it's kind of a difficult time.
I enjoy it. I enjoy doing this. This is my choice to do this, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm happy to be a part of it, and I always do this.
Awesome,
all right,
man.
cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, everybody's got to realize it's like, what is it, Lion, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning where you're at?
2:30.
2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Dedication
Beautiful
to
stuff.
the Raider Nation.
Oh,
All right. So I'm going to address something to get this thing started. I'm going to address something real quick because it's going to be the obvious thing, not only in the episode, but as we're all sitting here talking right now. Me and Lion were talking during production, and we decided for me to remove my shades, which is very huge for me, guys. To all that to those who've been following me for a long time, I'm a very self-conscious person about my vision and my eyes. So removing the glasses to bring more of a professional look, not just some guy in sunglasses, was a big step. I'm kind of proud of it, and so that's why I'm doing the live show. I decided not to wear them. You'll see me in them, in certain outdoor events, I must wear them. So anything I film or do outside, I will be in my shades because I have to, just for the sake of not progressing my disease faster. But I'm inside. I want a professional look. I'm taking this very seriously. It's something we'll have an announcement later of how serious we're going to take this and why. But, it was time for me to lose the shades, man, and I feel good about it. So self-conscious or not, I'm rolling with it. This is me. I've been unmasked, if you will. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. So you and Lion were talking about it?
Did I say Lion? I meant Pirate. I
was like, holy smokes, he agrees with me then. He agrees with me. That's a good thing.
My bad. Me and Pirate were talking during production, and we decided. So,
I think
it was a good decision. What's that?
People are confusing all of us because somebody was calling you Raider Knight, and so I think we're all our names are all kind of getting all crossed up in there.
Yeah. And just to address to the some of the comments, I mean, thank you for everybody who's supported us over the last month. It's been an amazing run. We're having a blast. I know these Google Hangouts can be really touchy, and we all have different internet connections. We got Lion coming all the way from the UK. I'm in Fresno. Pirates in LA, in the mountains, in fact. So, it's something that we're working on. So if it freezes like it did last week and gets a little glitchy, we do apologize. It could be our internet connection, or it could just be Google itself. But it's every week. This is a work in progress, and we're going to handle it one step at a time. So don't worry. We understand that it's a small issue, and we will fix it eventually. You guys got anything to add? I want to check something here real quick.
Yeah, well, on my side, like you were saying, every week we're figuring out different types of things and working through different issues. But we're getting faster, we're getting better, and I think it's the teamwork it helps. You know what I mean? When everybody's on the same page. So a lot of work goes into it, but it's at the end of the day, it's a fun thing to do. So, Lion.
Yeah, no, I just want to echo that. I think that It is. We are. I know we've spoken a little bit about the fact that we are all still working on it. It's like a developmental process. But Pete, you put so much time into it, and it's a really nice product to see at the end of the day, and it's getting better and better every week. And so when the final version, if you will, comes out truly, it's going to be a truly amazing thing.
Yeah, that's a little thing that Knight's going to talk about in a little bit, but we the whole idea here was to just incrementally try to get better, to work through some bugs, to try to figure out what was the best way. And we've had some really cool things happen. We're going to be doing an unboxing here, but we've had some really cool things happen in terms of getting certain equipment so that we can do some things a little bit better. But the idea, again, is that we try to, from the pilot episode, we tried to make episode 1 a little bit better than that. Now we're into episode 2, and then episode 3 and 4, we want to take even more steps. So we're looking at going to the full studio as opposed to just the half studio that we're currently using, because we're still working with the software and the lighting and the green screens and all those different types of things. Our sound, we're going to be shooting on different computers. We'll be utilizing some different Dropbox stuff. So it's going to look a lot better as we start figuring these things out.
Yes, it's definitely a work in progress, and we just want to thank. I mean, the main reason we're bringing all this up is we want to make sure that you guys know how much we do truly appreciate your opinions. Keep your opinions coming. Keep your questions coming. We're having a lot of fun doing this, but we just want to let you guys know that we understand that there's some things that we're working on, and we're excited about. Towards the end of the show, I'll be bringing that up. I want to kind of get this the phone lines open up to see what kind of followers we got going on right now, but I'm having trouble finding the number. Do you know it by hand, Knight, Pirate? I know it's an 805 number.
No, I don't.
Let me get it. I think I have it written in one of my. Let's see here. Okay. Try to get it to where the number comes back up on my side.
Here it is. Here it is. Okay. 907-9192. 805-907-9192.
Okay, is it up on our screen now? Or my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so there we go.
You got 8182 on there.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay. Nine one 82. There we go.
No, 9192.
That's what I meant. We're off to a great start. Okay. 91, 92. Okay, there we go. I also activated the question and answer app on this video. So if you guys are able to figure it out, the ones that are watching, viewing, go ahead. You guys can ask us questions on the Q&A part. It should show up. I don't know if it shows up on YouTube side, Google side, or how it works. I just know I enabled the question and answer on the video, and I have it up on my screen. So Pirate, if you go to the left of your screen, Lion, left of yours, hit the Q&A button and see if something comes up on your right. And if anybody asks us questions, we could look there too, highlight it, and answer the questions. As far as that goes too. So anybody out there that's watching and listening, you guys could do that. But once again, as always, the phone number is area code 805. What is it? 805. 907-9192. Yeah. 1-805-907-9192 is the number. Feel free to call and ask us anything you want. And we'll be here to take your questions or listen to your statements. You could talk about the show, you could talk about the Raiders, minicamp, and we'll all address it. So All right. So what else should we start off with? While we're waiting, I wonder if I should just go ahead and get into some what's going on now, or let me see. All right, before we get into that, we got nine people watching. Okay, so as we wait for this stuff to pick up some momentum, mini camps just ended. So what are your thoughts? Let's start with Lion. Lion, what are your thoughts on mini camp so far?
It's tough to say at the moment. I think the main thing that's coming out from everything really is that just the team seems to be bonding and getting together. From everything we're hearing from Jack Del Rio, Derek Carr, Khalil Mack, etc., people are just working on improving their craft and honing their skills. I think the thing that I really like coming out of it is that people like undrafted wide receiver Joe Hansley are being topped as, say, one of those standout players from the off-season workouts so far, and guys to keep a look on for the rest of the season. And it's kind of nice to always hear those stories. The one really disappointing thing, DJ Hayden is injured again. And I was really heavily rooting for him. And of course I still will be. I'm not going to just drop him. But it's sad to hear DJ is back injured again, and hopefully he's going to be able to bounce back.
Yeah, Pirate, you have any response to that?
No, I didn't even know. I didn't even see that DJ Hayden did get hurt. What happened to him?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Lion. Go ahead.
I think it's his leg. Am I right there, Knight? I can just
yes, it's something to do with his leg. He tweaked his leg. I haven't got an official word on exactly the injury, but he tweaked his leg.
Yeah, Scott Blair reported it the other day, along with a couple of other sources, that he was sitting out practice and he was on the sideline, and it's just kind of like another setback, and so you don't really know how it's going to affect him, because it's always come out this year that he's competing with TJ Carey for that nickel spot, and people truly believe he can lock that down, hone his skills there, and be able to really push for that spot. And another injury setback, especially with the fact that he's had limited time on the field already, isn't going to be the greatest help to him.
Yeah, see, I didn't even see that article. I've just been hearing really good things. I mean, one of the things we talked about in the video, I think, was about, veterans and how some of our younger guys are becoming the veterans now. They're taking over for Charles Woodson, and they're taking over for Justin Tuck, and so that's something that I've heard a lot about, that they're taking on that responsibility. And then also, like you said, with Hansley, the undrafted guys, Cowser, McCaffrey, guys that they're saying are having really good camps for being undrafted guys. It's a really strong undrafted rookie class. So again, in years past, maybe it was one guy or possibly two guys that were able to hang on to the roster. I think on top of the fact that we've got a lot of good players already between guys that are on the team, free agents, drafted guys, that there's a lot of talent in that undrafted class.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, I heard that DJ Hayden got hurt, and I was posting on Twitter that, wow, okay, here we go again. Hopefully this ain't, same old DJ Hayden. But I was listening to Jack Del Rio's press conference, and Jack actually slipped the lip and said that it was just a minor tweak and he'll be fine. So all reports thus far says that he will be back for training camp. And Jack also went on to say that he's probably been the bright spot in the secondary in the OTAs and mini camps. And I know a lot of people don't put a lot of emphasis on it. I know I tend not to at times, just because they're in helmets and shorts. But when you look at your cornerbacks, you're not looking for contact. You're looking for the things that Jack mentioned. He's got excellent feet and vision. So he likes that about Hayden. And in the zone and in the slot, we were talking about this once again, not in this video. I think it might have been the episode 1 video. I answered a question about the battle between Hayden and Carey. And I was mentioning DJ Hayden's footwork. I mean, that's his specialty. He's got great quick feet, and vision in the slot. I think that could be a strong suit. And so far, he was leading the secondary in interceptions in OTA. So, I mean, that's without pads and in real competition. But there was also an article that mentioned Sean Smith talking about reinventing yourself and how that is possible. So there's a lot of positive signs pointing to Hayden, and it was good to hear that it was just a minor tweak. And Jack Del Rio even laughed and said, "Oops, I'm getting soft on you guys," because he leaked some information out he usually doesn't talk about. So I hope he's right. I hope it's a minor tweak, because I was kind of excited to see that Hayden was actually finding himself in this defense this season, because he is very talented.
Yeah, I just worry that, they've talked about DJ Hayden looking like he's improving and getting better, and they're feeling confident, and and then we get to the season, and he's not doing anything. Because I've saw those ads too, and or those articles too, and I thought, wow, okay, yeah, he's blowing it up. He's leading the team in interceptions. He's looking really good. So I hope he comes out. I hope he steps up and plays really, really well. But we heard that last year, oh, he's looking good. We feel really good about, who we've got at the corner position. And so, I don't know. I don't get too excited.
Where the coaches are trying to do their bit off the field to help him with his confidence.
Right.
Because a player who's had different injuries, who's been slated by the media, who's been called a bust since after his first year by a lot of the fan base, you've got to try to rebuild his confidence. You've got to try to build him up in one way or another. And I think this is Jack Del Rio's way, just to try to instill a little bit of confidence in him, to have a little bit of, to give DJ Hayden a little bit of self-belief. Because at the end of the day, that's a forgotten part of the game. It's what can make or break certain players, and you've got to have the confidence in yourself. I mean, I think Jarvis Landry, even though he's not Oakland Raiders, he's Miami Dolphins, he put it perfectly the other week when he was asked whether he was happy he was on the top 100 at 98. And he responded that if anybody says they're happy not being number one, they shouldn't be playing the sport. You've always got to strive to be the best. And you've always got to have the confidence in yourself that you can aspire to better things and to fulfill that potential. And with everything in the media that's gone on, it wouldn't surprise me if DJ Hayden has lost so much self-confidence and lost faith in his ability. So hopefully now, with everything coming up that he's working and getting better, and hopefully that's echoed by the rest of the team, he's going to be able to work himself up to where he can start to believe, hey, I can do this. Hey, look at me, I've intercepted Peyton Manning. Not many people have said that they can do that. I can build myself up now. I can start competing. I can do this kind of thing.
Right. Well, we got our first question. It comes from, looks like Raiders full time. It says, with the NHL voting to expand to Vegas, do we think this affects the Raiders' chances on moving? Let's go ahead and take Pirate. You want to answer that one first?
No, I think I don't see why it would affect anything. The NFL has said that they, were reluctant to move. They feel that they're open to move. They're much more open to move now. So I don't think this expedites or it would in any way set them back at all. I mean, I think it's something that's been, my opinion, I think it's something that's been in the works. I think that they're planning on doing it. No, I don't think it was going to have any effect at all. Mark Davis, I mean, the question is stated as, do you guys think it affects the Raiders' chances in moving there? No, I don't think so. I think Mark Davis wants to go there. I don't think he needs a hockey franchise to, decide that that's the right thing to do. And like I said, it doesn't appear that the NFL at this point is standing in the way of Vegas anymore.
Right. Lion, your thoughts, if any?
Yeah, I'm gonna make kind of a bold statement, but I think that everyone is kind of echoing it. I think that if Mark Davis cannot get a thing done in Oakland, we're pretty much already in Las Vegas. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, bar them agreeing to actually paying them the money, it seems like the only sensible option, it's the only one that's truly come out in the last couple of months that we've agreed to in terms of, they've said they'll pay us the money, they've said that they'll help contribute, and so apart from Oakland, and if no deal is done there, it looks pretty much like we're heading to Vegas. And so I can't see this putting a spanner in the works. Most big cities have two teams in, and it's a different fan base. I mean, people are like, but for me, if I put it into context for myself, it's tough to follow 2, 3 teams or whatever have that religiously. I follow the Oakland Raiders. I'm dedicated to them. I do so much on them. I'm looking through articles on them daily. If I did that with, say, another team, so much of my time would be spent looking through articles on Twitter, following people. And so it's a different fan base entirely, I think, you're targeting there. And it shouldn't really affect Oakland at all.
Yeah, and when I look at the question and it says, does this affect the Raiders' chances to move? I'm going to say it increases the chances more than it affects the chances. I'm not sure, and I don't believe that they'll play in the same stadium, but maybe in the same area. And all this does is it's more of a money draw to kind of help fund the whole surrounding structure of the stadium. Maybe not so much the football stadium itself, but there's other factions involved like UNLV and other events. There's been another report I read today about the owner of the UFC's got the UFC up for sale, and he's interested in looking at the Raiders to kind of help push that along as well. So there's definitely a lot of money interest growing for the Raiders in Vegas, and if the NHL votes to move, what it do is they'll probably be able to move first. I'm assuming that they could change a lot of these arenas that are already existing to put an NHL team there sooner rather than later, that it would just show the rest of the United States and beyond that, professional sports have a place here in Vegas, and the financial capital is there. So if a NHL expansion team moves into Vegas, I think that just kind of ups the odds of like, okay, they're breaking the grounds. They got this professional franchise going into Vegas. Why can't we move our product in there and capitalize on the money that is Las Vegas? It's money, it's alcohol and partying too. But like I mentioned last week or a couple weeks ago, it's everywhere. Look at Atlanta, look at New Orleans, look at New York. Even a town like LA, has its hot spots when it comes to partying and underground activity. So Vegas is just on the map for it. But yeah,
which is why I think the point needs to be made that if anybody is truly worried, and I was skeptical at the start because Sin City and I haven't visited there, I don't know what it's like. You just always know about its reputation. If anyone is now skeptical, especially myself, I've completely thrown that idea out because you can't have two of the biggest businesses, and it is a business. The NFL and the NHL are specifically designed to make money. Two big businesses. They would not risk their franchise, their company, in a sense, the Oakland Raiders and whichever team in the NHL goes there, to Vegas if it wasn't going to be profitable exploit. And so it really needs to be said that any of the Sin City or whatever you have, those kind of anecdotes, they're not really relevant, I think, now. I think it's just maybe every city's got that, as you've just said. And it's just the players on themselves. If you get the right players in and players that aren't going to be tempted by being stupid or being idiots, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about. And to be honest with Reggie McKenzie, he rarely drafts a player with character concerns.
Correct. Pirate, any more thoughts you want to add to that?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, I think that it's been a done deal. I think it's a done deal. It's just a matter of time. We're just waiting on the, crossing the T's and dotting the I's on those contracts. I think it'll be done, and that's my opinion on it.
Awesome. Okay. All right, guys. Just a reminder, the phone line is open. That's area code 805-907-9192. That is area code 805-907-9192. Feel free to call in, make a statement, ask a question. We are here ready to take your phone calls. Okay, so let's move on to something else. We also have the question and answer figured out over here. Someone asked a question, so if you guys could figure it out on your end, feel free to type in a question in the box, and we'll address that as well. I guess the next thing we could talk about would be some exciting things that we got going on. That way, if a call does come in, I wouldn't mind leaving this topic. Me and Pirate were approached this week by an individual that's starting up his own franchise brand of sports talk, I guess you want to call it. It's called iFan Sports. It's something that he's trying to get off the ground, and I guess me and Pirate and Lion are his first targets to get into the mix. So we've been approached, and we've actually been sent some things to get us started to up our game, if you will, as kind of a thank you and as a test to see exactly what kind of abilities we're going to bring to the table. So, Pirate, what's your thoughts? Anything you want to add to that?
No, yeah, I think it's a really exciting opportunity. There's a lot of things that are going to be popping up to allow us to kind of take it to another level. I mean, again, we're building and we're learning at our level, but we've had a lot of help. We've had a tremendous amount of support from the community, lots of emails and people actively getting involved, leaving voicemails, and like Knight said, you know, in the case of one fan, I guess you would call him, he's decided to donate to us some different equipment for us to take it to that next level. Oh, looks like we got a call coming in from Virginia.
Ah.
Hello, caller. You're on. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Neil from Washington.
Neil from Washington.
That's right.
What's going on, Neil?
Just had a quick question. What do you guys think our chances are of having 2 1,000-yard receivers this year?
All right, the question is 2 1,000-yard receivers this year. Do you think it's a stretch? Do you think it's something that we should easily be able to do?
Wow, I say it's something that could be very easily done. If you look at Amari Cooper getting 1,077 last year, and he did that injured in the back half of the season, as well as our offensive line getting beat up, no running game, and Michael Crabtree pushing over 900, I think that it's fair to say that the odds are probably if you were doing it 1 out of 10, I would give it probably a 9 that both Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper go over 1,000 yards this year. Lion, your thoughts?
I've just been trying to do some simple arithmetic in my head, and I think it could be. I'm actually going to put it on Amari Cooper, which sounds weird, whether we will get 2 1,000-yard receivers. And what I mean by that is Amari Cooper going to have that incredible breakout year, 1,300-odd yards, whatever amount of touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, and is he going to have that standout year where he can be that number one, that true number one receiver, or are we still going to have that 1-2 punch with Michael Crabtree? And everything that's been said, especially over the last year, Amari Cooper lived next to Derek Carr. They always do these workout sessions together. You've got that chemistry being built, as Derek Carr has spoken about in the last week. And I'm really, truly expecting, and I'm really, truly excited to see that connection again. And I do believe that you're going to get Amari Cooper kind of like 1,200 yards or more. I do truly think you're going to get that. And to have 2 receivers, say one at 1,200 and one at 1,000, and then I want to make up this note. Seth Roberts is especially improving. You're going to see him given more time on the field. I mean, he carried us and saved us at some points last year. Also, Clyde Wolford. Everyone has spoken about how the fact that he is going to have an expanded role. He's going to be looked at more. He's going to be he's going to be looking at increased receptions, more targets, because of the type of talent that he is. And then Marcel Reese, hopefully, I mean, we've spoken about it, I think, in week 1 of the episode. Hopefully we're going to see him more in a tight end role, as I think he averages close to 40-odd receptions per season. And you already know that DeAndre Washington was brought in to be more of that third down back. But Latavius Murray traditionally always has a high total of receptions. So I think the potential is there, but Derek Carr has always traditionally spread the ball out over his first 2 years. And so I think it will be tough, but I don't doubt that Crabtree would get 900 plus. I just would question whether he's going to get 1,000 plus, if you get what I'm saying. I think he'll get close, like he did this year, but just not above. I think there's a minor difference between 900 and, well, obviously there's a minor difference between 900 and 1,000, but I think he'll just get to possibly 950, close there, but not just push above there, because I think Amari Cooper's production is going to be up this year to around about 1,250.
Okay. Pirate?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I agree with everything Lion just said. I think that Crabtree's a possession, 10-yard per catch type guy, so he's probably going to get around 90 balls, 900, close to 1,000 yards, and that seemed about right. I don't know if they could have gotten him tremendously more involved. He's not the playmaker. He's not where the offense should be going through. He's a situational type of player. Amari Cooper, though, I think, again, if you look at it, he was a rookie coming in, being the number 1 receiver, playing against the teams. Teams started rolling coverages to him. Then he got injured. He still had 1,000 yards. He was still a game breaker when he got his hands on the ball. I mean, he's the type of guy that he could take a 10-yard pass, 90 yards, or he could go for a 90 or 40, 50-yard bomb, So I think he's going to make the majority of the yardage. What I look at is them saying that now Carr is going to have the ability to kind of make his own decisions, put the ball in places where the offense isn't dictating that it's supposed to go. He does like to spread the ball around, but I think that, again, was by design. If you look at the offensive coordinators he had, and me and Knight were talking about this earlier today, you look at the offensive coordinators, Knapp, Olsen, the idea was, check down, stay within the offense, don't make a mistake, just kind of methodically try to move the ball down the field. I don't think, whether it be at Fresno, and I don't remember who other than Josh Harper, I don't remember who his number 1 was at Fresno, but I don't think he's ever played. I'm sorry?
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, it was Devontae Adams and Harper. Yeah, those were his 2. There was one other one as well, Williams.
Yes,
and I think
Derek Carr.
I think that Amari is going to be better than all of those. Obviously, he's better than some of those guys, but I mean, I think once he figures it out and he puts it together, I think he's going to have monster numbers. So just because he can do it in so many different ways. So I do think he's going to be high up there, 1,400 yards. I think Crabtree's probably in that, 900, maybe cracks 1,000, 5 yards, something like that. And then I love Walford. I think Walford is going to be, although I don't see Walford being 1,000-yard receiving tight end. You know what I mean? I see him as being a, 600, 650 type guy. And again, as we were talking about with guys like, Marcel Reese, and now you have extremely good hands in the kid that we drafted this year, DeAndre Washington. So Carr's going to have a lot more things that he can do with the ball. I think as a whole, this offense is going to be a lot more prolific, but I don't know if it's going to turn into, like the Rams, where you got, Torrey Holt on one, you know what I mean, the 2,000-yard receivers, and then the guy in the slot who's getting, another 800 or 900 yards. I don't think it's. I
think you mentioned a nice point about the tight ends. I think it's worth mentioning to anybody who's not kind of a avid follower of the NFL or just kind of like follows it vaguely. New England Patriots offense is specifically set up to exploit matchups for Rob Gronkowski. It is set up so he can get 1,000 yards. Similar to Cincinnati Bengals, Tyler Eifert is pretty much the number 2 weapon. And what Andy Dalton has specifically done this year is look off defenders to throw it at Tyler Eifert. He's been perceived as the number 1 target in most situations. But we've just been asking this question, and it kind of links very nicely into this role of kind of receivers, receptions, everything like that. Tyler, who do you think the wide receiver 3 role would go to? Andre Holmes or Seth Roberts?
Obviously, Seth Roberts. I mean, I think there's no consistency. You know, when Holmes came from when we got Holmes from Dallas, I thought, wow, this guy's big. He's fast. I mean, he climbs the ladder to go and get the ball. I mean, he made some spectacular catches, but then he would disappear for 2 weeks. We wouldn't see him at all, and he'd drop balls, and and Seth Roberts. When I was looking at the receivers, breaking down a lot of the stuff that he was doing, looking at his touchdown receptions, and looking at when he was making those big plays on 3rd and 12 or on 4th down, and we were making those completions. He is a student of the game. If you watch what he does, he sets up the defensive backs. He'll go with one move. He'll go with the hook in, sell the hook in, go with the hook in again, sell the hook in, and then hook in, and then turn out. And those are the big plays that Derek Carr gets into when guys start falling asleep on his routes. So Holmes doesn't seem, Holmes is much more of a one-trick pony. It's like, I'm going to run down as fast as I can, and then you throw the ball up high, and then I'm going to jump up and I'm going to get it, before the other guy's going to get it, because I've got 4 inches on him or whatever. So I definitely think that Roberts has shown much more consistency, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. I think, I like versatility. I like a wide receiver that could do it all, stretch the field, do the slant routes, do the hooks, screens. And when you look at the top 3 receivers on our board right now, which would be Cooper, Crabtree, and Roberts, all 3 of them possess that. And they all have different strengths. Like, Crabtree's not the most biggest speedster to go down the field, but we've seen him actually get open and do it. And he's got great hands, so he could do jump balls just like Holmes. But he's great in short routes, out routes, in routes. He's caught slants and ran over people for touchdowns. It was sloppy tackling, but I'll take it. So, yeah, I mean, I have to give it to Roberts just because he's more versatile. But it sounds like he's got a lot of competition coming up the ranks in Hainsley and McCaffrey and Hainsley. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out this offseason in training camp. I think there's a lot of young depth there, and it's going to be interesting to see the competition unfold in training camp this season. And I'm taking it. I came in late. I had to leave for a quick second. Was that the question on the Q&A board you guys were answering?
Yeah.
Okay. Thought so. All right.
Yeah, and just another thing. I mean, Holmes really is not a slot guy. I mean, depending on the formations that they're going to be running, that doesn't mean that he can't play in the slot, but he's not your traditional, slot guy. He's more of your wideout that's going to, like I said, he makes his money running down the field, running on the streaks and things like that. So, I mean, he's definitely a matchup. He would definitely be a matchup nightmare on, your 3rd or 4th defensive back or on a linebacker, something of that nature. But I just see him more as a guy that just stays out wide and stays outside the hashes and tries to make his living by going up and getting jump balls, which you can't. This is just not that type of offense. You know what I mean? It's like you're not going to make your living doing that in this type of offense. If you were in San Diego, he's the perfect, when you look at Phillip Rivers, he's gotten a lot better. But when he came out of North Carolina State, I mean, his accuracy was horrible. But he had guys that were, every receiver on that team was 6'4", and they could jump up in the air. So he'd throw that ball, he'd throw that big old duck, just as hard as he could, as far as he could, and his guys would go up and get it for him, Rivers wasn't dropping the ball into the bucket, or into the basket. And he's gotten a lot better. I'm watching him now. You can see that Phillip Rivers has developed a lot more touch, but that's the type of receiver that Andre Holmes is. He's the type of guy that, 30 or 40% of our plays are going to come directly through you, and we're just going to chuck it, and you got to go up and you got to get it. If he's asked to come back to balls, if he's asked to try to cradle balls, or that sounds terrible, but if he's asked to try to run any of those possession type routes where he's going to come back in and possibly get popped. I mean, he seems to just not. He doesn't have the most consistent hands when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think the thing that really annoyed me when he became our feature receiver in 2014, the amount of drops that he had.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that drove me. That made me mad. I mean, literally,
but it's like what you said, Lion. It's a confidence issue, right? I mean, he got pushed into a position where he had to be the number one guy, and he didn't have the confidence to do that.
I think I saw a stat the other day. 1 in 4 of his targets ended up in drops.
Right.
And it was just, it's not what you want, especially from a top 4 receiver on your roster. But last year, I think we really honed his role down to perfection. Where I think at one time he had like 8 receptions and 4 touchdowns. He had really proved himself as a red zone threat type of guy. And with his height and speed and everything, that's exactly what you want.
And that's the credit to the staff. I think that's one of the biggest things that I like about this coaching staff. I mean, regardless of how our record ended up last year or where we ended up in the rankings and all the bells and whistles that we could either praise or, talk down on, they really did a good job of getting to know this roster, and in some cases they really found the strengths of this roster and utilized it to its full potential. And I think Andre Holmes is one of the perfect examples of that, the way that they were able to say, we don't want you to be this no more, but we're going to definitely use this about you. I mean, because it easily could have been Holmes or Butler that went to Dallas, but the Cowboys wanted the more versatile, explosive Butler, so we got more for him. So
Butler has a lot more potential.
Correct. So he was younger. So I mean, we kept Holmes, but they were able to say, you know what, Holmes, we're not going to do this. This is what we want from you. And he came and did it well. And it'll be the same this year. I think maybe this year he's going to be pushed a little bit more, but his advantage on this roster is his height with speed. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's see. My phone went off. Let me see if there was anything. Okay, it was Watts Raider just making a comment about the video. Study, exclamation mark, exactly, exclamation marks. Stats are for fantasy. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was pretty much the topic of our show this week, ladies and gentlemen of the Raider Nation. And then we got into depth, but I think that we could have served it more justice even, because it's one of those questions that you could just really just dig, and there's so many layers and so many angles. And the most important thing is everybody is different, whether you are on NFL Network, ESPN, all the social media sites, or you're rabid fans and analysts and you break stuff down on your own. Everybody has a different way of looking at things and doing things, but it was really interesting this week reading that article by Mike Florio just to see how watered down the top 100 voting system really is, and it was quite hilarious to be honest with you. Anybody have thoughts on that? Do we have no more questions? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of up and down. I mean, I think you want it to mean something, but I think in like you said, in the research that you did, you really find out that it's either outdated or it's projected, or and there's really no way to tie those two together. Is Alex Smith any different physically? I mean, he's taller, but is he any different physically in terms of arm strength than somebody like Drew Brees? How do their brains work? What types of offenses are they in? A guy like Trent Dilfer comes out of Fresno State. in a wide open spread offense where he's able to throw the ball, a ton of times, and then he goes to Baltimore where they ask him to hand the ball off until it's 3rd and 13, and then you got one opportunity to do something that's extremely difficult, which is make a completion, for a first down on a 3rd and 13. So you see that all the time. You see teams that are defensive-minded, but they've got the number 1 pick, and they know that they need a quarterback, and they go out there and draft a quarterback from a prolific school. And quarterbacking, there's a rhythm to it, just like anything else. Running backs need rhythm. Quarterbacks need rhythm. You can't ask a guy to go in, hand it off, get backed up 4 or 5 yards, and then face a tenacious rush and, without any kind of rhythm to make some things happen in a game. So you see guys like Trent Dilfer, like I talked about, that go from being highly touted, oh my God, this guy can win 5 Super Bowls or whatever, and they go to a team where they become game managers. And the same thing, Alex Smith at Utah. Alex Smith was extremely prolific at Utah, and unfortunately, he's turned pretty much just into a game manager, for all these different types of teams. So that's the question. I mean, stats are one thing, but if you are on a football team that doesn't look at stats, you know what I mean? Like I shouldn't say look at stats, but I should say if you have all the potential in the world, but you're on a football team that is not going to utilize you that way, they want you to play in their system, they want you to do what they want you to say. They're going to yell and scream at you on the sidelines if you try to improvise or do whatever. Then it's never really going to show. Nnamdi Asomugha was a fantastic example in the Raiders system where he was able to utilize man cover skills. He was an excellent tackler. He was a shutdown corner. There were talk, it's between, he's the best in the league and XYZ. And then he goes to another system that is run a different way, and he's a bust, right? So stats can be deceiving.
Yeah, it's totally a team sport. There's 11 men on the field at a time, and they all play off each other. We've seen that a lot last season. We've seen it on many different teams. We've seen quarterbacks struggle because they didn't have the right receiving core. And let's face it, some quarterbacks in the league, even, they're just that good that it don't matter. I mean, Tom Brady's one. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Tom Brady. I'm not a fan of Tom Brady for certain acts and certain things about Tom Brady, but I give the man credit where it's due. I mean, the guy can throw the heck out of the football, flat or not. The guy can throw the ball, and he's made top receivers out of no-name guys. So, I mean, he just makes people better around him because of his intelligence. Peyton Manning was the same way. He will be missed in Denver. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the way that he can manipulate a defense and turn something into nothing with his receivers. So the really, really great quarterbacks have that ability. But some quarterbacks, you know what? They need that balance of running and a number one, a true number one on the outside with a good complementary number two. So, stats are stats, but team is team. And when you got a team that's playing like a team, they're more dangerous than the one player. Lion, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's stats are always one of these questions where it's so interesting to hear what people say, because some players stick religiously to the idea that stats don't lie in terms of interceptions, touchdowns, percentage completion, sacks, tackles for loss. And I'm going to take J.J. Watt, and it was discussed on NFL.com a couple of weeks ago. You take J.J. Watt and compare him to, I don't know, another top defensive end in this league. Let's say Ndamukong Suh. Take those two there. J.J. Watt is able to play wherever he wants on the defensive line. And even though people may dispute the importance of that, that is the most significant thing that you could literally have. Imagine putting Khalil Mack in a situation every single down where you want him to be in. You're exploiting the system so that Khalil Mack is a one-on-one situation or J.J. Watt is a one-on-one. And I think that's where stats lie for J.J. Watt in the sense that, even though he's a prolific pass rusher, how he's got those stats, whether it's moving 2 positions over or switching over, so he's exploiting a one-on-one and a blitz to say help them out. It's interesting to see, and it kind of adds an extra dimension to it. But truly, stats in certain situations are important. For college players, for a receiver, for quarterbacks, for defensive players generally, I'll look at them as a baseline to get a general idea. I mean, you take a middle linebacker from a college level, you want to see him averaging close to 7, 8 tackles per game. You just want to see that as a minimum, because that's a production level, and the fact that he's being able to make the plays and being able to do that. How he's doing it is a different matter, and you'll break that tape down separately. But you want to see him just doing it. And so from a certain level, you want to see stats to show that a player is performing at a high standard. But to truly break down and differentiate between this player, that player, based on stats, don't forget the stats and watch the tape. Tape is completely different to any stat.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, there's a good way of kind of, and that's what I think what we were sort of discussing. I mean, if you are, let's say, for example, playing in a certain division that is a very weak division, no matter what, you know, it's like the Cavaliers in basketball. You know, you got a real easy road to the finals. So in football, you know, I don't know which divisions are going to be extremely bad this year because it always seems to change. But in certain divisions, you've got a much easier road. You're playing against teams that are not, let's say, as good as if you were playing against within other divisions, right? And that's the thing that always kind of got to me. Like, well, like you just said, it's sort of unfair. What if I play in a defense where they're not going to let me do what J.J. Watt does? Hang on, folks. We got a call coming through. Caller, you're on. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Oaktown Raider.
Oaktown Raider. What's up?
Yeah. What's up? I wanted to call and tell you that I love the show. It's really great, man.
Well, we appreciate it. Do you have a question for us, Oaktown?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that Bill Musgrave, well, the offense towards after the season, like, they figured it out. And he never really made any adjustments to it. He even admitted that they used Latavius Murray wrong. Like, I mean, if they do it the same next season, should we fire him? I mean,
yeah, you know, that's an interesting point. There's a lot of people. That is the one thing where I think there is a lot of debate. You know, Bill Musgrave as sort of as the weak link, and I don't think we've got enough time. And I think because of the way that the season happened last year. Look, when we had Greg Knapp, it was let's fire him before we hired him. When we had Greg Olson, let's fire him before we hire him. These are horrible picks. These are historically, you know, their numbers may be decent, but again, it's not good. Their offenses are very predictable. You know, the quarterbacks don't get better. The offenses themselves don't get better. I think that Bill Musgrave has the potential to show us an entirely different offense this year. I totally agree with the caller. I said this, I was yelling this to my TV screen. Why are you running Latavius Murray out of the gun? This makes no sense. He's a power runner. He needs to gain speed. He needs to get up to full speed so that he could break it and he could cut it. And we continuously tried to run these draw plays, you know, or gun draws, gun runs. And it was ridiculous. But again, you're dealing with a brand new team, and this is a young team. So we have to remember it's a very young team. Your quarterback basically is a second-year player. Your running back is a third-year player, you know, who missed a year, you know, because of injury. Your wide receiver your main wide receiver is a rookie. You know, your tight end is a rookie. So you don't have a lot of experience there and a lot of continuity there. Now, they've been in that system this entire year. So, all of last year. everybody's competing together and going together through OTAs. They're getting their timing down. All the stuff that they had to learn on the fly last year, now they're improving upon. So while I agree that what he was doing used to piss me off, I truly believe two things. One, that this offense is going to be much more prolific, more fast-paced, because when you know how to do something, you can do it quicker. And when he said that he was going to let Derek Carr make some adjustments, I think that we're going to see progression from this offense, and that progression, I think, is going to come through Derek Carr and the running game. Yeah, I don't know, guys. What are your thoughts on it?
Do you mind
You
if I
can take
pitch in?
mine. Go ahead, Lion.
And this is the part of the league that I hate, and I use that word very lightly, and I don't use it to cause any offense or anything like that. I don't like the idea that we plug certain people as busts, as failures within 1 year of them being part of a system. Even though Bill Musgrave has been fired by Jack Del Rio in the past, and you've got all the problems there, he's coming into a brand new system where he's got an exceptionally young team that hasn't truly melded, that hasn't had any continuity for a long time, and instantly people are already saying, oh, he should be fired. Even when he was hired, I mean, I can remember sitting there and just going, who? I mean, who's this guy? We almost need to just take several steps back and just realize that during the season you can't change anything. From week to week, the playbook is not going to drastically change so much that you're going to be able to see a completely different team on the field, because you don't have that time. Every week you're pretty much preparing for a new team, you're developing, you're trying to work for that team system to exploit matchups there. You can't add in, I don't know, another go route, or you can't add in another screen or whatever. You can't do it. It's just not possible. So this offseason, I'm really, truly interested. And let's actually just bear in mind, Derek Carr has been listed by a lot of people as already a top 10 or top 15 quarterback. By every account, he's a top 15 quarterback in this league already. This is pretty much in Bill Musgrave's system. He's been able to succeed. Amari Cooper has been very successful. Even with the injury, he's got topped 1,000 yards. So let's just hold back on any of the hate or whatever, or lack of doubt or lack of belief in Musgrave. Because even though at times in the back end of the season Derek Carr did struggle, let's just wait and see almost, because I truly do believe that Musgrave can get the best out of Carr and can find ways to truly enable Carr to be an elite quarterback.
Yeah, I believe all signs have pointed to Bill Musgrave understanding himself where he went wrong last season, at least in the statements that's coming out inside the media. For example, like he mentioned, I think we understand how to use Latavius Murray now, or I want Derek Carr to have more control of the offense, which all reports have shown that Derek Carr has in his calling plays and talking about being on the same page as Musgrave, understanding Musgrave and what he wants, what he would do, and making changes with inside the system of things that they worked on. So this is kind of part of that continuity that I talk about all the time, and with consistency of bringing Musgrave back is what is allowing this continuity to build. So whether it's Derek Carr calling some shots at the line of scrimmage, or understanding exactly how they need to utilize Murray, and if that took going out and getting DeAndre Washington so they could best utilize Latavius Murray, that's just another plus. And as far as Greg Olsen goes, I mean, Olsen had 2 cracks at it. You know, people forget that. You know, he had 2 cracks at it. Now, the only excuse I've ever made for Greg Olsen was the fact that he changed quarterbacks and he had a rookie quarterback the second time around, and it was a group effort and a group decision to, with the lack of leadership, by the way, with Dennis Allen and even Sperano, not to really push the limits and take it easy with Carr. That might have been part of Reggie's plan too. So, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to stick up for Olsen, but, you know, his numbers with Bortles last year weren't bad, right? I mean, we talk a lot about it. So it's hit and miss each and every year, but the more that you can get your quarterback involved and understanding the offense and taking some of the heat off you and being on the same page will pay big dividends. But most definitely we need to look at Musgrave under a bit of a microscope this year, and he's got a lot of pressure. And the one thing I like about the whole coaching staff, in particular Jack Del Rio ain't going to wait till the end of the season. If it's going that bad, he'll let him go. He did it before, and I see him, pulling that trigger again if need be. So I don't think there should be a concern, but I think that a lot of the complaints were understood. I mean, we all sat there and saw the same thing, the same continuous runs up the middle, running out of shotgun, no momentum. And even when it was working, I don't know how many times we saw the running game working, and then all of a sudden they just stopped utilizing it. It was weird. It was a weird season, especially when it came to the running game. They couldn't make up their mind, but I'm expecting a big season from our offense, and I know Jack is. The fans are. I'm sure Reggie and Mark are. So the heat is definitely on Musgrave. If there's anybody on a hot seat this season inside the organization, coach-wise, it definitely will be him.
Yeah, I think the thing to point out is I tried to get in when you were just saying that, and you mentioned that there. Please, nobody take into account Greg Olsen and what he's done in Jacksonville this year. It's a completely different offense, a completely different system. It's a completely different scheme, and in no way, shape, or form can it be compared to what the Raiders are doing in Oakland. It just can't be compared on any basis whatsoever. And even though he's had ridiculous production and able to get Allen Robinson to be probably the best second. Allen Robinson is probably the best or top two third year receiver in the league. It's a completely different system, so please everybody bear in mind that, because it's not fair to make the comparison.
Caller, you still there? Yeah, go ahead. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was just trying to say something when it comes to the running game. I noticed our offensive line was mainly pass blocking. They weren't too good at run blocking. And considering that, Derek Carr is a better quarterback when it comes to the shotgun, he operates better in the shotgun. So I think with DeAndre Washington, he's going to get this part over Murray eventually, because he can play in the shotgun from what I've seen.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we appreciate you calling, man, and we hope that you listen and we call back again next week.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, the point that he makes is that DeAndre Washington is a gun run type of running back, right? And there's a couple of things. I mean, like Lion said, Gus Bradley, the way Gus Bradley is going to allow Olsen to run his offense, and the way that Dennis Allen allowed him to run the offense. Dennis Allen said, go ahead, do whatever it is that you want to do. You can take the same offense, and again, there's always been this question: is it the scheme, or is it the players? Right? Is it the scheme? Now, certain schemes, you're going to find players that are going to fit certain schemes, and they're going to play extremely well in those schemes. Jerry Rice and the West Coast offense obviously were a fantastic fit. What Michael Urban was able to do in Dallas in the more traditional pro-style offense was still a very good scheme fit. You had Jay Novacek as your safety net. You had your possession guy, and then every once in a while you had Harper, playing the Andre Holmes role or something like that. So you're going to find that there are these fits, right, for particular players. But you can look at something and you could say, okay, let's say, for example, the guy from the Rams. What was his name? The dude with the glasses. Not Vermeil, the offensive coordinator guy. Anyways, let's just say his offense, extremely prolific offense. Mike something or other. It's extremely prolific offense. That offense would not have worked when Jack Del Rio was in Jacksonville. It just would not have worked. Okay, let's run 4 receivers. Let's run 4 receivers every single down. We're only going to have 5 linemen to block in. Well, if you don't have a pass-blocking offensive line, it's not going to work. If you don't have 4 receivers that can, challenge deep and intermediate routes, it's not going to work. If you don't have a quarterback that can't process all of that information and make the right read, it's not going to work. So a great offense, right? It's a fantastic offense. It was extremely prolific in St. Louis, but it's not going to be prolific, let's say, for example, in Jacksonville. And the same thing is sort of true for what it is that we're talking about. You know, if you try to run, for example, with Carson Palmer, what they're running with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville, it's not going to work. Why? Because you're asking your quarterback to get out. Or I guess with Denver was the same thing, right? They were asking the offense called for a lot of bootlegs. The offense called for Peyton Manning to get to the outside, and Peyton Manning wasn't very comfortable with that. So again, he could do it, but they realized maybe we should try to do a little bit more of what he's comfortable with doing in order to make it work. So a lot of times, like we're saying, it's kind of this crapshoot, like where you get drafted, what team you go to, what scheme that team plays, and how long they're going to give you to adjust to that scheme in a league that, again, NFL, not for long, right?
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand with like the draft, Pirate, right? Like when you look at the Mike Mayock's of the world and the Mel Kipers, it is literally impossible to predict a draft and predict it accurately, whether they move up or down trades, any of it, because your one person's view of a player in a system fit are way different than the guys running the show inside these offices, the war rooms of these football teams. You can make excuses of why they didn't pick a guy or why they picked the guy, but at the end of the day, it's the offensive coordinators, head coach, defensive coordinators, and the head of the scouting department, which is usually like the GM or sometimes the head coach, that makes these decisions, and they all collectively sit and talk about the pros and cons of each player, how it fits what they're looking for, whether it's a need or a system fit, like we were talking about Carl Joseph was, a system fit type pick. So it goes hand in hand. Like you bring an offensive coordinator in off a name, and you expect, okay, well, make it work. Well, a lot of the times, I mean, the personnel just might not be there. And I think that's what you got. I think that's what makes Hugh Jackson such a great offensive coordinator on paper, mainly because he's not afraid to be like, okay, well, if I can't figure it out, I'll run a flea flicker, a fake punt, a fake field goal. I will move this ball and find a way to, move the chains, even if it's street ball. And I think that's where he made his name. But he does have a system he likes to run. He does have players he likes that are system fits. He's done a great job in Cincinnati. But I think a lot of the success he had with us wasn't his ability to utilize the personnel from a system standpoint, but more from, I'm going to fake everybody out and do some crazy stuff because we need to generate something. And that's where I respected Hugh Jackson. He let it all go. So. I think Musgrave has more of the pieces he needs, and I thought he did a great job with what he had. And I want to make this one point before I pass it off to Lion about Derek Carr. Yes, he's a shotgun quarterback. He had most of his success at Fresno State in the shotgun, but his first few years he did go under center, and I think you'll see him going under center a bit more as time goes on. I think the way that Musgrave and the team handled his progression last year was smart. Keep him comfortable, but keep him doing both. That way he could get more comfortable, and pretty soon you might see him maybe even under center more than not, just because there's a lot more stuff you could do out of that formation. So keep an eye on that this year as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what both you guys say, and I've just literally been Googling some things where I'm trying to reconfirm to myself some of my thoughts and everything like that. And Musgrave was brought in, and this is complete rumor, but to build a system very akin to Fresno State for Derek Carr. So to give him a system where he can have success, he can be that kind of general on the field and manage the game. He sees a certain matchup he likes, he moves someone over, he does a motion or something like that, sees it's cover 1 or cover 2 or even cover 4 in a certain situation and wants to exploit it, he can make the certain changes that he needs. And it's going to be interesting to see, especially in the coming seasons, but I think I was thinking about this, and even though this is a really minor point, anybody who's watched the Derek Carr mic'd up versus San Diego Chargers, you'll see there in one play he turns to Musgrave and goes, "Let's go for it." He basically goes, "Let's go for it." And I think that's the idea that Musgrave was kind of holding Derek Carr back in a little bit last year. I think he was just trying to get Derek Carr ready and used to the NFL a little bit more, get him confirm the system with Derek Carr a little bit more, and confirm Derek Carr's ability to truly read defenses, read an opposition, game manage a situation, manage the clock, look off people. If it's a 1-high, 2-high safety, being able to dictate what happens there, being able to look off certain defenders to get the ball where it wants. And so I think he was holding back a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see this year whether he's going to truly open out the playbook and in certain situations do something crazy or weird. But I want to make a note on Latavius Murray and the fact that I think he can do everything. I think that we're just not seeing it, because if you think back to his breakout year in inverted commas or whatever in 2014, he ran absolutely everywhere and did absolutely everything. And everyone needs to remember, even though he does need to get up to speed, this guy ran a 4.3. It was a 4.38. He can run bloody fast. And so if you get him up to speed, which doesn't take too many steps, he can be lethal. And if he's gone, if one person misses a tackle on him, he's pretty much gone.
Agreed.
Yeah, but the difference is that, you know, it's like Jerome Bettis versus like one of those little scat back type dudes, right? There are running backs that need just this much, right? Just give me this much room, and I'll get through it, and I'll get to the second level. We're always talking about the second level. Latavius Murray is an upright, long strider. So when you watch him run with the ball, you don't see a lot of body lean, and you don't see his feet chopping at the floor to fire him forward. He's a long, striding running back that runs straight up. So he can do everything, yes, but it would make sense to say, what does he do that would make him really, really good? Well, that's your Jerome Bettis effect, okay? If you've got 5 guys up front and they're pushing guys 3 or 4 yards downfield, and then he's able to get through that line and then get to the second level, it's much easier for him then to build up the speed to take it the distance. But when you're doing the gun run plays, what happens is now guys have reached you before you've gotten any speed at all. You're taking a step or 2 steps. And I don't care how fast you are. There is not a running back in the NFL that in 2 steps can get to full speed, you know, while he's juking a guy to the left.
Yeah, apart from LaShawn McCoy, who's probably the only running back in this league that I'd give that standard to, because he seems to be able to do it.
I mean, there's guys, like I said, the little guys, the scat backs, you know, those types of guys can do it. I'm not saying that they can't do it, but I'm talking about a big 3-down style running back. I'm not talking about, you know, little tiny, you know, speed demon types of little guys that are in there on 3rd down. I'm talking on an every down basis. There's not a big 250-pound, you know, or 240-pound running back out there that can get from 0 to 60 in 2 steps while he's got people already in his face, and he doesn't have there's not a direct hole for him to shoot through. I just think it was, you know, I guess they did it out of necessity. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of. But he just isn't, to me, he's not. It's clear. I mean, there's not a question in my mind. He's not that type of running back. You know, he could be a great running back. Don't get me wrong. I think if they get him into the I formation and they get a fullback back there and they get this offensive line putting their helmets on people and wide receivers blocking downfield and utilize his speed and power and, you know, hey, you can run upright all you want if you're not getting tattooed in the chest before you get through the line of scrimmage. You know, it's only if you're getting pounded on that we're going to sit here and we're going to have to talk about, well, he runs too upright. You know, so did Eric Dickerson, so did Eddie George. So there was a bunch of guys that were upright. The dude from the 49ers, right, Roger Craig. There are a bunch of upright runners that have been successful, but, you know, you got to utilize them correctly.
Most of those runners that have a lot of success, I mean, look at what Darren McFadden did in Dallas last season. Look at DeMarco Murray the year before. He led the league in rushing. He went over to Philly. It was a totally different offensive line. So this to me is what, you know, I think that Latavius Murray needs is, for one, get that momentum going, number one. Number two, with the addition of Kelechi Osemele and Rodney Hudson and you got Gabe Jackson and the offensive line that we're all thrilled about. And we've seen last season the difference that one lineman can make. When we added Rodney Hudson in the middle, it changed the dynamic of our whole offense. So now adding Kelechi Osemele, we're looking for that same effect. And if we could build and capitalize like on things that like the Dallas Cowboys did, building their offensive line and opening up these holes for a guy like Murray, then absolutely this guy could just run off the charts, right? But you know what Pirate is trying to say is, what happens if that is not completely it? If that's not the case, and even though that the line could block well, it's going to have to take a more than just running through a hole, and with momentum to do it, you're going to have to bring in, you know, DeAndre Washington.
But I think that's where we look at Latavius Murray last year and see. Pardon?
Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Raymond from Washington. I just moved from Iowa.
I'm sorry, say that again. We got two calls coming through at the same time here.
Raider Jamie just moved from Iowa.
Raider Jamie, what's going on, Raider Jamie?
Not much. I don't know, but they were saying there is one Hall of Famer who ran like Latavius Murray, Eric Dickerson, and we had him for one season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was in Washington, I was saying something about, look at the people who stand tall running, and they have great offensive line. And I wanted to add to that, with our offensive line growing now, do you think Murray's going to be a lot better runner, or do you think it's just him needing to adapt a little more towards running after it is over?
I think it's like I just said. I think we have the offensive line to have a upright runner. It's scheme. What scheme are we going to do? Are we going to continue to try to run him out of the gun? If that's the case, then, you know, like we said earlier, he needs to be fired. I mean, he's misutilizing his running back. You know, you've got a big, strong offensive line that are going to be people movers now. You've got a tall, powerful running back. You got wide receivers that are good blockers downfield. Both Crabtree and Amari Cooper, you know, routinely run downfield 15, 20 yards and block guys out of plays. So everything is set up for you to be able to run the ball. Run the ball, right? Let's run the ball. Let's just line up. Let's get Alawali in there, somebody that can block better than they can catch or run themselves. Let's get a true fullback in there. And let's let Latavius Murray do what he can do.
Well,
if you try to run
I'm just going to make this point just while saying this. What if, and this is a big what if, and I'm more posing this as a question than anything else, is Latavius Murray overhyped?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he has the potential. We've all seen the potential. You know, again, you can't ask, is somebody overhyped if they're continually misutilized? If anything, obviously they're underhyped by the people that should be hyping them, right? Which is his coaching staff. So his coaching staff, it's not like they've been running a power running you know, and doing everything they can to get in the ball and to get, you know what I mean? It's not like that. What we are seeing is we're seeing him try to be utilized as a gun run, zone read, or zone running type of running back, where instead of having a designed hole, he's kind of trying to, you know, make up his mind, sift through garbage, move to the left, move to the right.
I think that's where he's got to progress. If he's going to last in this league for, say, 6-7 seasons, you can't just have him as a guy who's going to have the line block the shit out of everyone for him, and he's just going to run straight up the hole. He's got to be able
that's
to
what Emmitt Smith was, right? That's what Emmitt Smith was, and Emmitt Smith basically stayed in the league for 15 years. You know, you take advantage of what the guy does, and then you do it. He doesn't need to be a scat back. He needs to be a power back. That's why they drafted him. He's got the speed of a scat back, but if you can't utilize the guy's skill set in your particular offense, and you want to be known as a running offense, then you should change to it. You know, like anything else, like I said, we could take all of your weaknesses and lay them out on a shelf and say, okay, you need to improve in all these areas. And we're not going to help you with anything that you're good at. We're just going to ask you to improve in these particular areas. Or we could turn around and say, God, dude, you're really great at this, you know, and you were meant to be doing this type of thing. Why should we try to, you know, we could bring in a DeAndre Washington. We could bring in Taiwan Jones or Roy Halou or any of these other types of guys to do these other types of things. As the NFL becomes more and more situational, we no longer have 3-down running backs anyway. My point is simple, and that is take advantage of the guy's strength, run him in a situation where he's going to be successful. We've all watched it over and over again. It's not you don't have to be a genius to see when he gets the ball in the shotgun, he's taking a step to the left or he's taking a step to the right almost all the time, right? So he's already not doing what he should be doing, which is trying to, as fast as he can, get to top speed, get through a hole, and then just go north-south, right?
In all fairness, isn't that the other part to this whole equation too? What happened to Latavius Murray last season? Not only was he overly utilized out of his comfort zone in the shotgun, but when Taiwan Jones was healthy, you saw a better mix of the two, and we never got a full healthy Roy Halou who had hip issues. And, you know, Marcel Reese, for some reason they didn't use him like halfback a lot, and they ended up going to Adewale. So maybe with a healthy Taiwan Jones, an emerging DeAndre Washington, that thunder and lightning effect that I've been talking about this offseason, you know, maybe that'll give them more opportunity to use Murray in his strengths without taking away from the offense. Because what we saw last season was a running back group that did not have a complementary back, and they found themselves in a situation way too often where they were trying to use Murray as that all-purpose, every down back, carry the load, and they kept putting him out of position for what was working for Derek Carr, which was the shotgun. So, you know, maybe it had a lot to do with Taiwan Jones' injury. And I mean, we could sit here and make excuses all day, but like Pirate's been saying, the bottom line is if he's not producing out of the shotgun, I don't really want to see him in the shotgun. They might have to keep the defense honest and run it a look of it every once in a while, but that I wouldn't make a habit of it. That's for sure.
I think this comes back to the point we were making, or you just literally made, about the fact that you didn't have that complement. You didn't have that complement. Roy Halou was brought in specifically to be that third down guy, and he just didn't ever turn out to be that guy that we wanted, the guy that we'd kind of paid for in free agency and everything like that. That's where DeAndre Washington's come in. DeAndre Washington is a turn of pace, third down guy who's going to be able to turn upfield and make something happen. That's his specific role, even though that's just his role in a very minor way. He's definitely going to be there to add a different dimension to the offense and add something that Latavius Murray isn't. But I want to make this point, and I've seen it so many times, regardless of where Latavius Murray is, whenever I saw him run straight up the gut, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, straight up the gut means going between left guard and center or right guard center, or just really in the middle of that mesh of the O-line. It didn't work. I mean, when have you ever seen that? He's not a big power back who can run over people. He's a big guy who can run quickly, but he's also a big guy who likes to use finesse and likes to try to sidestep and likes to try to get around people with kind of more moves and skill rather than, say, run over them as, say, the traditional big guys of like 230 pounds of the Eddie Lacy's and everything like that do. And so he's an oddball in that sense, because you've got this scat back in the sense that he runs a 4.3, he's ridiculously athletic, ridiculously quick, and he's able to, if he gets past that second level, he's gone. Nobody's going to catch him, and it's been seen by Kansas City. He's a guy who's not afraid of contact by any means, but won't truck someone.
I don't know if you could say he's not afraid of the contact. I think when he got that concussion.
That's not what I was trying to get at. I was just basically trying to get at the fact that I haven't, in my memory, I have not seen him truck someone. I haven't seen him run over.
But that's exactly what we're saying. We're not talking. There's a difference. You can't truck somebody if you run like a stiff board through the middle of the line.
You gotta lower your shoulder to run over somebody.
His problem is that he runs upright, right? So he's not going to truck anybody. He needs to get into the open field where he can stiff arm, where he can drag people along, where he can do things like that. So the point really is, either you're going to have people coming and running at you where you're not going to have a chance to get up to full speed so that you can outrun them, or you're going to try to have the guys in front of you move everybody so that you can take a step to the left or a step to the right. We got another caller.
I think this is where we
hold on to that hotline. Hang on. Caller, where are you calling from?
Southern California.
Who are you?
Brian 760.
Brian 760?
Brian.
Okay. Sorry?
Brian with a B.
Brian.
No, I'm in Southern California.
All right. So you got a question?
Nah, I've always liked traditional running backs, Barry Sanders short, Emmitt Smith short, Bill T short, never been above right, you know.
Yep.
But I like LT. I like Latavius Murray last season, but to me he's too tall, and I don't like that.
Yeah, so again, the question's still on Murray. Do you think that his height is a factor in him running tall, or do you think that that's just his running style?
That's his running style.
Mine is, like you said, Eric Dickerson was kind of tall. But every good running back growing up, they were short. Traditional running backs, that's what I want.
Well, Eddie George was, thanks, caller. Eddie George was a tall running back. I mean, there's been some tall running backs. Again, like I said, if we can understand what someone does well, we talked about this earlier. If you understand that a player's strength is a certain thing, whether, again, that is he gets met in the backfield and he's, a jitterbug type guy that can do that like Barry Sanders or Marshall Faulk, that's a different thing. At the end of the day, what does this guy do?
Before the caller came on, I literally wanted to make this point, and we've been skirting around the edge of it, and I've been kind of contemplating bringing it forward, and I'm just going to do it right now. Everything that we've mentioned about Latavius Murray not being able to run over someone, he's more of a finesse type back. He's got the speed, even though he's tall. He doesn't really. We don't utilize him in a certain way. Combine all those things about him not having the ability to, say, truly run over someone and run up the gut and say the traditional sense of the word. Maybe that's why we run him. Oh, I've forgotten. What's the term? Where he's next to Derek Carr or something like that. I've forgotten the terminology.
Yeah, you're talking about out of the formation, right? Where the quarterback is yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's instead of shotgun or I form, you've got basically Latavius Murray lining up the pistol.
We run him out of the pistol. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And so I think this is maybe where you're trying to combine elements of Latavius Murray's game and the fact that he is different for his size. And on his size and everything like that, if you watch him, it's actually a really nice point about him. He leans forward whenever he runs, and even though that may mean he's easier to take down and everything like that, if you tackle him, he's always going to get that extra yard by him just flopping down forward. And it's a kind of a nice traditional thing about big, taller guys. They don't do it. They traditionally stand upright, and when they lower their shoulder, they'll crouch. Well, Latavius Murray traditionally is always leaning forward, and so he's always got that momentum is going forward. So even though it's probably going to be easier for him to be toppled over and brought down, he's always going to get that extra yard by fighting forward. And instead of being upright and going backwards and being hit backwards, he's always going to traditionally be able to get you those couple of extra inches and just help out.
Yeah,
But I think that goes.
unless he's being met by, 3 guys in the backfield, then you're kind of screwed.
But
right?
I think that's not on him. That's on the offensive line.
Well, yeah, I mean,
offensive
if you're making
coordinator.
3 guys on a
That's
backfield, something's gone wrong.
yeah, well, that's why I think that Brian 760 was trying to get at when he said that he liked the smaller, lower backs, is because, yeah, you're going to get that extra yard, and you could put it on whoever you want to, but if you, like you mentioned before too, you had never in your memory seen Latavius Murray run over somebody. Well, that's because he runs high. In order to run over somebody, I mean, if you go look back and you watch how Bo Jackson took out Brian Bosworth, he didn't run standing tall and running through him with his chest. He lowered his shoulders. He hit him shoulder and helmet, just like, I mean, that's fundamental football they teach you at a young age. So why Latavius Murray likes to run so high? I mean, I know there's been successful running backs to do it. I mean, they're more comfortable doing that. It might be a thing where they don't like the head contact as much. That's one way to avoid head contact. There's a time where he did try to lower himself in the Kansas City game, and he got sideswiped right in the helmet. And these are some of the things that make him think, I'm going to run.
That's a point that, again, that maybe would be a mixture of all the points that we're making. It could be a mixture of lines. Question: is he overhyped? Right.
Right.
I think that he got popped, and I think his lateral ability now is nowhere near the same as it was before he got that hit, because that was a nasty hit. I mean, he went ka-dink, right, and then he was out, and then he was gone for a while, and then when he came back, it just seemed like he was much more hesitant, and that can happen to players. They can get that one good whack where they're scared, just like other types of injuries where you do something to your ankle or your knee, and so you're never the same because you're never, putting your all into that ankle or into that knee. I think I remember that game and thinking to myself, like, damn, man, he just got popped. And sometimes players come back, but they're a shell of themselves. And again, what they were able to do well, sidestepping and dancing around in the back, maybe now there's a moment or 2 moments more of hesitation, and that's long enough for guys to get back there. So again, I think fundamentally this is a situation of, do you put him in a position where he could be more effective, or do you put him in a position where you continuously see him time and time again getting tackled, running into his own players, hesitating, not seeing what everybody else is seeing, and that becomes a problem. And my personal opinion is it was necessity. They didn't have a choice. We had running backs that were injured. The only other options were Marcel Reese and Olawale, and but you'd see those guys do the same runs and they'd run for like 25 yards. You know what I mean? So again, there's a situation of, is it Latavius Murray? Is it the scheme? Does it have to do with him being shell-shocked? And, maybe that's worn off now. It's just going to be interesting. When we get into preseason and we start seeing this offense, a lot of questions are going to be answered. If they pull out this offense and they're running him like they should be running him, and the offensive line is moving people the way it should be moving people, and he's breaking a couple of runs, and we're doing some play action, and Derek's getting the ball down the field, and this offense is looking great, and the pass rush is kicking, and the defense isn't on the field all the time, and we're not doing stupid 3-and-out plays continuously. then it's going to tell you, okay, they were missing pieces. They were missing some formula. They were missing a guy to come in and do this and a guy to come in and do that.
Maybe they were just missing experience. I mean, maybe that's the thing. I mean, Latavius Murray, last year was his only first true start as the feature back. Derek Carr is young, first year. This will be his second year in the system. So having that chemistry, but also I think there's a massive point between you've got Latavius Murray's production, say it as a bar here, when Rodney Hudson was playing, it shot through the roof. Honestly, Rodney Hudson is so undervalued by the rest of the NFL, it's ridiculous. When he was there, Latavius Murray's production was monumental. And you actually look at, and even though we've just gone through a whole section on stats and everything like that, look at the stats for Latavius Murray and correspond it with the games that Rodney Hudson was injured for, and you'll see a notable decrease. And I'm talking like an average of 2 yards per carry decrease. It was so significant and so...
Yeah, well, but again, why is that? Because the guy that you put in there to back him up at center, Bergerstrom, is his own blocking a guy that's light in the pants. He doesn't have any power. He couldn't hold a candle to somebody. So now when you're getting guys coming up the middle...
Where I get back to where I say Latavius Murray is overhyped. The offensive line is building him up. You've built up this offensive line where you can run with a subpar back or an average back.
But the problem, this is what I'm saying, that the thing that you're not looking at, and it's a fundamental piece, so if you don't look at it, it will be confusing. It's not like they were running him in a particular style that was conducive to the type of running back that he is. So that's our problem. The thing that we keep on arguing about is, well, they were running him out of the gun, and they kept running him out of the gun, and they kept running him out of the pistol, and they kept running. He's not that type of runner. He was never that type of runner, right? So what you're saying, I would agree with if they were lining him up back there like they did with LaDainian Tomlinson or with any other Eddie George or any other type of running back that, you're going to commit to grinding it out. And they were continuously, the offensive line was continuously shooting forward, and they were continually creating holes for him. Then I would say, yes, absolutely, you know what, that is totally true. But that's not what we're doing. In fact, we did the opposite. So that's where you have to step back and say, we're not giving Latavius, we don't have enough information on Latavius Murray because, again, if they're not running toward his strengths, we'll never know what he can truly be or what he can truly do.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Pat. I'm not trying to specifically argue against you. I'm just trying to find alternative.
We're not arguing. It's football discussion, and it's all good.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, this is good football discussion. This has nothing to do with arguing.
We
got about 15 minutes left, so if anybody wants to call in, this would be the time to get on the line. The number is 805-907-9192. That's 805-907-9192. We'll be on air for 15 more minutes. I got some personal stuff I need to go take care of, so we got about 15 minutes left in the show, so get your questions in.
15 minutes.
What's that?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to sleep in 15 minutes.
No, but it's one of those discussions, man, the running back situation. We got to let it play out. I mean, he did get over 1,000 yards, and, he was like the 6th best runner in the league, but in a passing league last year. So, I mean, I'm just excited for the season. I think we got a lot more options this season, especially offensive on both sides of the ball. I can't preach balance enough. I think I heard the phone.
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, hello. This is Mike from Southern California. Quick question. What do you guys want to see from this year's defense by formations? There's a lot of hybrid stuff going on. What do you guys think?
Oh,
I don't know.
All right. Thanks for the call, caller.
How long have you got?
Yeah. This is something we talk about all the time. This is like our favorite subject right here. Who wants to start this one?
I'll let you guys go ahead.
Is
Go
he
ahead,
asking,
Lion. Go ahead,
is he
Lion.
asking what scheme fit we're going to have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot
I
of
think
different
so.
hybrid stuff, yeah.
I think we're going to stick with our... I'm going to keep this very short and sweet, and I'm not going to go into it because I literally could talk for hours on this. but I think we're going to stick with our hybrid base 4-3. So that means that we've got the option to switch into a 3-4 if we want to and exploit certain passing situations. I think you'll especially see that when we get Alden Smith back. But I think we're traditionally going to have, at times, I think we're going to have 2 high safety because of the playmaking ability that Carl Joseph has. But traditionally, we're going to have, I think, Reggie Nelson as a 1 high safety, Carl Joseph coming down into the box a little bit more. You're going to have an inside linebacker blitz, if not the outside linebackers blitzing heavily in a 3-4 situation. And in a 4-3, I always think you're going to have 5 people blitzing. I'm going to keep it very short and sweet. I'm not going to go into any more detail.
I'm not going to try to confuse anybody. I mean, we've talked about this for days and days. I mean, we love actually talking about it because I love defense. But
yeah,
there's a 3-4 and there's a 4-3, right? That's your 2 traditionals you base with. There's the Tampa 2, cover 1, cover all that. I'm just going to flat out call it what it is. It's a 5-2-4. That's what you're going to be seeing most of the time. It's a hybrid of the 4-3 and 3-4. I think, depending on how the personnel with the new pieces, how Ben Hinney does, how Jihad Ward and Calhoun, how Bruce Irvin fits into the system, that will dictate how much you'll see of the 4-3-3-4 look. But you saw it last year. They like that 5-2-4. So look for that. They'll drop the safety in the box to kind of give you that extra coverage on the tight end or against the run. But having Bruce Irvin with the ability to drop back, I mean, you're not losing anything. I think you'll see a lot of it. I call it a 5-2-4. So that's what I call it. It's a 5-2, not the 3-4.
It's not going to be a 5-2-4 in the sense of, or a 50 defense, as people call it, in the sense of what Denver run. It's going to be more akin to the 2005 Baltimore Ravens. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm reading. It's going to be more akin to that and more akin to the system that we run there of having the kind of like edge setters instead of true blitzers 100% of the time.
Yeah, me and Pirate have talked probably. I think there was one conversation me and Pirate had that literally lasted 4 hours just almost on this conversation. Pirate let it rip.
Yeah, no, I see, we're not going to know for a little bit, but I see Norton having a little bit more influence. And I see it as being more of sort of a hybrid of what the Seahawks were doing, a little bit more of Pete Carroll's style of defense with some Jack Del Rio kind of tendencies to it. I think we've gone out there and we've gotten a bunch of multi-position players. I think on the early downs we're going to come out to shut down the run, and I think when we go into some passing situations, I think it's going to be much more fluid. But yeah, I agree. Probably single high. I think single high probably, and that conversation is going to be interesting all in itself of how the secondary is going to end up playing out, and who's going to take.
It's going to be cover one. It's going to be a cover one primarily. I think it's going to be. I think our defense is going to have elements of Seattle and Denver in, which is the Jack Del Rio, Ken Norton Jr. kind of combination. I don't think we're going to split it. I don't think we're going to split our defensive coverages into sides, which means that, and I'm trying to simplify it into as much as I can, which means that, say, Sean Smith stays on one side of the field and David Amerson stays on the other. I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're just going to run a traditional cover one with probably cover three elements, which is deep cover zones for the corners and linebackers, outside linebackers space out a little bit, or just however you really want to run a cover three. But anyone who knows the terminology, I think we're going to run a heavy cover 1 and 3, and then at times shift it probably cover 4 quarters. Just depends on certain situations, say a long third down or something. But it's ultimately we have no idea until the defense gets on the field. And I think it's going to be interesting, and it may even change when Alden Smith comes back.
Well, that's why I said the players that we've brought in and the versatility that they have, you can mix and match. You can do a lot of different things. You can play guys inside and outside. You can put in sub-pass packages for passing situations. And then, it's going to, again, depending on your personnel, that's how you're probably going to run your secondary. So, if they decide that they're going to go more the Seattle way, then they're going to use Amerson probably to play more man coverage up on one side, and then they'll use Sean Smith to play that sort of traditional, off coverage that what's his name plays.
Emerson.
No, from Seattle.
You're talking about Dick Sherman?
That Sherman plays, yeah. So he plays a little bit more of that sort of off coverage where he's able to read a little bit more. And like I said, the pass rush itself, I think the pass rush itself is going to produce a lot. I think we haven't had seasons where we've had tremendous success with turnovers in the secondary. We've had, a few interceptions here, a few interceptions there. I think this is going to be this is going to be a high year in terms of turnovers.
Especially what we're used to, right?
On paper,
exactly.
On paper, this is one of the best pass rushing defenses in the league. And I do stress on paper because so much...
Yeah.
Ooh, that's another call.
Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
From California. Who do you guys want to see at Nickelback?
Who do you guys want to see at Nickelback?
We kind of touched on this earlier in the video by referencing DJ Hayden and TJ Carey there, because I think it's already pretty much come out and set that Sean Smith is number 1, Amerson's 2. And so it's a competition between Carey and Hayden. I'm going to leave this up to you guys. Honestly, I'm just happy for the best player to be there.
Well, I think it falls in line with what we were talking about the defense. We can run many different looks.
Another cool.
We could run the 5-2. We could run the 4-3, the 3-4. I think with the personnel we got, I believe that the solid back at this early point until training camp, to let them battle it out, I think that TJ Carey has the all-around cover skills we're looking for. He could do the short-range, long-range cover skills, and I like that just for the safety net of being able to cover down the field. We already know he could do that. But DJ Hayden does have really good feet. Jack Del Rio mentioned it. So if anything, I would say TJ Carey primary nickelback, but covering the slot anyway, and then he probably even utilizes our safeties as well. But Hayden would be a good third and short type of nickelback slot cover guy. If it's short yardage, keep things in front of him. You can still beat him up over the top, but I think he'd be ready for it. But in third and longs, I'd rather see TJ Carey in there covering the slot. So we could mix it up, or we could just run with what we got. So it all depends on personnel.
Yeah, how I'm going to answer the question is I'm going to say I don't want anyone specifically, but I expect DJ Hayden to win the battle. I'm going to go out to the bold claim there.
Yeah, that's a really bold statement. There's a lot of people that are probably disagree with you, but that's okay. That's the beauty of calling your shot like that. I think DJ Hayden has the skill in the slot. I mean, especially when you're talking slot, I think that fits what Hayden has proven he could be. Like I said, keeping things in front of him. The slot receiver is usually a slant route. It's usually a curl route. Very rarely do they try to hit the seam. And you got your safeties watching that as well. So, I like Carey's ability to cover down the field, especially if they're going to run the seam. But DJ Carey's, you like how I mix that up? Combination of both would be beautiful. But a DJ Hayden, that short yardage, quick feet, great ball instinct, keeping things in front of him. I mean, he could definitely do the slot work. So that's probably one of my most favorite battles that's going down in training camp. Especially if Hayden's healthy, is going to be that nickelback slot. But I mean, early on, until we hit August, I'll give it to Carey only because he could cover the whole field, and I think that's very valuable. But you could see where DJ Hayden will make this team if he's healthy, just because TJ Carey will be a guy we slide to the outside if Emerson or Smith get hurt. So there's definitely a place for Hayden in the mix.
All right.
Yeah, you also don't want to forget a nickel corner is so much more important when you don't have safeties that can cover. So when you've got in the box strong safety types that are, they really want to come up more for run support, then that nickel corner is that much more important on that team. Again, this is another statistical sort of anomaly type thing. You take a team that has two safeties that can also cover, wide receivers and things like that, and you're able to stay in your base. You bring them up a little bit closer, but you're able to kind of stay in your base. And only when teams decide that they want to go out to 5 wides to kind of test you do you have to really run into using your nickel and your dime guys.
This kind of gets back to the question that was asked about our defense, and we're not a base nickel defense. We don't run the Giants system of having 3 cornerbacks on the field to start off with. This is a option that we hold, and it's kind of like a sub-package in a sense, and as Parv was just mentioning. And so traditionally, I think this is why Carl Joseph has been drafted, because even though he's a guy who can lay the boom and can bring the big hit and come down in the box and provide run support, you can also, he's been compared by so many people to Earl Thomas, by so many of the Raiders coaching staff to Earl Thomas. And Earl Thomas is a traditional single high safety who can cover the shit out of everyone and go from one side of the field in a second to the other side of the field in a second. And that's exactly what you're going to get with him, a guy who can cover, make plays, and come down and lay the hit. And if you've got all those 3 combinations, we can stay in our base play formation of a 3-4 or 4-3, whichever way you're looking at it, because we're a hybrid, and just utilize our abilities there to the max.
Which really helps in certain passing situations. So, again, if you're looking at a team that is a speed, tempo team that's going to try to get you tired, it's going to try to run a lot of plays and keep your base formation on the field, at least from the secondary perspective. I don't think from the defensive line, but from the secondary perspective and the linebacker perspective, we've got guys that can run and that have stamina and can cover and do different types of things. And then, like I said, once we get these guys coming and rushing from all over the field, it's going to make playing in the secondary a lot easier. I mean, when it was just when it was just Khalil Mack trying to generate pressure, again, it was tough sledding for that secondary. And Woodson is the greatest. I mean, he was a great Raider, and he was able to do some things that 40-year-old men just shouldn't be able to do on the football field. But, one of our safeties was injured, so we were constantly bringing in another subpar safety, right? And then you had Charles Woodson, who was playing injured half the year, right? So now you got pass rush coming from all over the place. You got cornerbacks that are competent enough that they can keep things in front of them and read the quarterback and do a better fitted to suit into this defense. Sean Smith and Amerson are better suited for this defense than TJ Carey and DJ Hayden were, right? Or even the cornerbacks that we had from a few years ago. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make the quick point for anybody who's not kind of a defensive guru. A defensive or a secondary never wants to be in coverage for longer than 3 seconds. Because if it is, the whole system will just break down, and it just means it's impossible for a secondary to truly keep up with the receivers, because they'll be going here, there, and everywhere, because their routes will be broken down. So that's where the pass rush comes in. But I also just want to say, we've had this question sitting in the question and answers for probably half an hour now. And I feel sorry for if full-time Raider, if you're still watching, I'm sorry we haven't got around to answer it, but does anybody just want to pitch in on who do you guys think will be the return specialist this year?
Yes, and this will have to be the last question, guys. I have some stuff I have to attend to, so unfortunately. So we got, I think all the reports, okay, we got Taiwan Jones. He's going to be our kickoff specialist.
Hey.
So we know that for the most part, right? He's done a great job. So we're really looking at a punt returner here, in my opinion. And you also the second guy back there with Taiwan Jones. And a lot of word has been coming out about Minkins and Hainsley and their ability to return punts and kicks. So those 2 guys are – and you got to understand that these – you're looking at that 5th wide receiver, 6th wide receiver as well. So you have to, keep that in mind. I mean, we've got to watch which one of those two primarily right now, let's call it the fifth spot. That fifth spot's going to be that guy that is going to have the best hand and route running skills and chemistry with the offense, and as well as the guy that could make a difference in punt returns. Now, how the coaching staff decides to weigh those options will be to be seen, but look for Hainsley and Mickens to be the guys that they're looking at early on, at least for the punt return, and Taiwan Jones doing the kick returns, as well as either one of those guys running a number 2 behind him. Anybody else?
No, I hate talking about that.
No, it's one of those weird questions, but it's just something that I read this week. Is the only reason why I even had an answer for it, to be honest with you, because special teams I tend to just gloss over. So I was excited. I read something about it, so I'm like, oh yeah, Ainsley, Mickens, right?
Yeah,
Jones.
I love special teams. It's something that I do love. I play it over here a lot, and I love running down and hitting someone. And so
Raider Lion is our special teams expert. So there you go.
Yeah, I won't get into it in any detail, but all I'll just say is that from looking at all the Washington tape from college, which is Jaden Mickens, he looks like he could be deadly, and I'll leave it at that.
Nice.
Now, it's like I said before. I mean, every year they talk about the same things. Once we see it, don't get me wrong. If we have a return guy that's getting 3 or 4 touchdowns a year and is always getting us out to the 50 or something of that nature, then yeah, man, I'm happy to talk about it. But every year it's the same thing. Oh, we're getting this guy, and he's going to be doing this, and then that guy gets injured, or he doesn't produce, or we get penalties, and So once it happens, I'd be happy to look into it a little bit deeper. I know it's an important part of football. Special teams is 1/3, but I don't know. I can project more in my brain, and I can think more, and I can understand philosophies more, and I can do research on what they're trying to do defensively and what they're trying to do offensively. Special teams is a mystery. There are schemes, obviously. There are different guys that do it different ways, but to really get into a special teams coordinator's head and understand why they're doing what they're doing is, I don't know. It's just something that I haven't ever done. So
the matchup will change every week because you're always trying to exploit a certain way that, say, a team runs down the field on kickoff. So what a kick return team will do is going to be probably different every week, and say picking up.
I get that. I get. Like I said, I totally understand the concepts, but my point is that you don't. We're not talking about the great lineages of special teams coaches, right? So we're not talking about there's the West Coast special teams, and then there's the pro style special teams, and the run and shoot special teams, and the 4-3 and the third. I mean, you just don't get as much of the intangibles so that you can kind of break them down and get into the coach's head. That's more my point. I mean, I understand some of the concepts and why you're doing the wedge, and what it is that you're trying to do, and Kansas City. Was it Kansas City? Somebody they had like 14 kick returns for touchdowns in a year. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Cleveland or Kansas City or somebody. And that was one that I would have been interested in kind of studying. This dog over here is...
Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Do you guys, anybody, Raider Lion, you have any last words for everybody that's watching?
No, just thank you to if anyone's actually been on from the start and been on for the last 2 hours. Genuinely, thank you very much. So, thank you for all the support and love, guys.
No, absolutely. Pirate?
Yeah, no, thank you. I was hoping to unpack some of my stuff here live. Didn't get that opportunity.
But I mean, if you want, I could hang in there for a few more minutes if you'd like to unbox that. That's fine.
No, it's cool. I'll just have it set up maybe for next time or something. We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, it's the Oakland Knights saying thank you guys once again, man. We appreciate all the support and love that's been going on this last month, and we're excited, and you guys are keeping us driven and dedicated to keep producing more and more and more. So we thank you very kindly. This has been a broadcast of The Will to Win, and we will see you guys next week. Stay Raider strong.